I think Star Citizen has already been released. I think what people are playing is Star Citizen, and to try to crouch it as well, this is pre-alpha, alpha MVP, early access, or whatever. It's bullshit.
It's quite complicated to get working. I know there was a fair amount of skepticism out there. You really gotta earn the belief. The game wasn't built.
Haven't had an opportunity to work on them, but they are in the works.
Refactor them, change things out, retrofit it, refactor them, refactor them. People program things.
This is bullshit.
Star Citizen ARGcast episode 13. I am your virtual captain. We're just letting the alcohol dictate the direction this episode. It's going to be a short one. I'm sitting here with Bootcha and TheAgent. How's it going, guys?
Is it really weird that every single time I hear the intro, I insert poop jokes or fart jokes as I sing along?
No, it's completely normal. Completely normal.
So, as a programming note, next week, Tuesday, Derek Smart has expressed interest in appearing on the show, so that may or may not be happening, and it should be fun.
Oh, yes.
But
I would love to hear Derek Smart these days, because I think he's got some interesting things to say.
Well,
I
think over time, 2 weeks, whatever. I think his original blog post was talking about you can't do this project for less than $150 million, and now we're past that. And so his opinions and position must have evolved in some ways. So that's going to be what I'm asking. And anyone's welcome to show up. Just get in contact with me on Discord.
And he was lowballing that figure, I think, too. I think that was in his mind, and probably a lot of our minds who actually understand how much this shit costs. That was a lowball estimate, and he's completely 100% right. I'd honestly even say at this point, 300 million or 400 million or even 500 million wouldn't be too much to spend on this to get it out the door in a working, functional, with all features promised kind of deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually interesting because sort of like one of the big comparisons that a lot of people make with Star Citizen is, you look at the budget and then you compare it to previous games. Or like GTA 4 and GTA 5 are compared to Star Citizen's budgets quite often. And sort of like you get those 100 million, 150 million, 200 million stuff. But then you kind of have to think further back. Like, the GTA development team has been at this for a while. Like, they didn't suddenly go from, GTA 1 to GTA 5. They have built up this this wealth of developer knowledge to say, okay, we can actually do this. These are the mechanics that work best with an open world thing. Like, they have the experience coming in, whereas we're kind of looking at Chris Roberts with experience back in 1990s, 2001 at the most, and where has that knowledge developed since his break?
That's my kind of problem. Is this crowdfunding kind of catapults you into kind of the same sphere people think of. Successful studios, and suddenly have these big numbers like successful studios might have.
Yeah,
you really don't have anything else other than the dollar numbers.
Yeah, except this, you got to remember, this is now going on year 6. I'm not even talking about development. Say it started in 2014 because they need to build the studios, whatever you want to do. But the money started coming in late 2011, and it's now 2018, and they've collected, according to their own tracker, over $180 million. That's not a whole lot of money since 2011. It's not enough money to fund an MMO and a single-player game of this scope. It's not, which is why there was one leak a long time ago that talked about you need to give more, and you do. If you want to see this game being finished, I hate to break it to you, backers, but you need to pledge double or triple what you're pledging now. There's no other way around it.
Now that one started off with a hello, but I have gone back and forth on, is this a legitimate leak or not? And you're telling me that was a legitimate leak?
It was from what someone sent me, yeah.
From your email, it was supposedly legitimate. Wow.
So, I mean...
I'll try to pull that leak up and maybe quote it a bit, but yeah, that was one of the more explosive ones where a developer allegedly was telling backers in a subversive way, you need to pledge more to get the features you imagine in a working state or less than a working state.
The features that they've already paid for.
Right.
This is the problem with pre-saling features that you don't know if you could actually fit into your game. So it wouldn't be bad if you were just selling Star Citizen and said, Star Citizen, the MMO, it's going to be great. It'll have spaceships and first-person combat and some other stuff. It's going to be great. And then you changed, you sort of cut the cake down to fit your frosting on because you're not going to be able to do everything you promised. You're just not. Any time. And look at Peter Molyneux, whatever the hell his name is. That
Molly
dude,
do?
yeah, promised the fucking world on every single game he ever made. I mean, there was some crazy shit that he promised.
Oh yeah.
And none of that. I mean, a small portion of that was in the game, but the 80% was gone. And this is what happens with the big time 1980s guys, and we've seen it over and over and over again. We're going to see it happen with this project, unfortunately. I still want it to come out. I know I've talked about that previously. I think it'd be a great game. I think they completely imbalance it and they have no idea what they're doing. Like, even if you talk about service beacons, which they just did yesterday, they still have no idea how to say, oh, well, this guy has a 5-star rating and this guy has a 3-star rating. How do I make it so I always choose the 5-star rating guy? How do I always make sure that the 5-star rating guy isn't just propped up by his org mates to get it? And they were like, well, this early days of all these people, we don't know how to do all this stuff because we're just trying to figure it out now.
Yeah, I mean, like,
It's
I look at
surprising
service
to me
beacon-
how little of a red flag early days is to backers.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, like, I even look at like service beacons as sort of like, this is stuff that they're pinging out in the middle of space. It's sort of like, well, why not make it just a job board where it's a lot more, constricted and more contained and like more reliable as far as like a game mechanic. And now you have to make sure this service beacon works every fucking where. And I'm just like, oh.
Not only that, the two biggest things for me when it comes to game design, especially, and not single player. Single player, much easier to contain because you can contain the narrative of a person doing the things. You can control that without much of an issue, and it's still really hard to do. But when it comes to a multiplayer game, the two things are, how are you going to stop people from exploiting, and how are you going to stop people from exploiting? No, just how are you going to stop people from exploiting? That's it. I mean, really, how are you going to do it? So with these service beacons already, when you have player input to say how someone else is doing, who's to say that the goons can come in and be like, oh, okay, this is great. We're all going to vote you 1 star. We're going to take all of our accounts and vote you 1 star. Are you literally, is someone at CIGRS are going to go in and be like, I need to vet every single vote on this player, and we're going to go in and see, and what did their voting history look like, and are they a part of the something awful? Are they a special snowflake? Are they a butthurt snowflake? I don't know.
Actually, the goon fear is real, both for players and CIG.
Yeah, no kidding. Which is ridiculous. I love how there's this current narrative that we are behind this. We are like what do they call that? The shadow government.
Yeah.
Behind Star Citizen, like, we pull all the strings. Like, you're not seeing them. By the way, our voices have been squelched. Like, we're done, and we have been kicked out, and we control nothing. But secretly, we control everything. So be very afraid of us. Like, how do you fucking put those two things together and make sense?
Yeah, I mean, just we wanted everything to be Eve.
Well, yeah, and by the way, Eve was a terrible game. I can't stand Eve. I played it for like 3 seconds and was like, nope, not for me.
I played that for 5 years.
I hope
my
this...
God.
You know, one of the first things that turned me on to the Star Citizen thread was I know I didn't want to play Eve, but I wanted to play a space game. So I found my way into the Star Citizen thread, and I couldn't tell the Dreams posts away from what was actually playable. And that was 2013.
Yeah, and it's not gonna. We briefly talked about what we want to talk about in this short segment, and there's one thing real quick. I think VC, you should change this from. Is this listed under the Star Citizen channel, or is this just a talk show?
I don't know.
I think,
what do you mean, YouTube-wise?
No, just under Twitch. I think if you actually set this under Twitch as a Star Citizen, talking about Star Citizen games, because we're talking about Star Citizen, and now the policy is opened up, I think you'd get a lot more viewers, because quite honestly, there's only ever like 100 people watching the stream on them. On Star Citizen, I think if you said, "Hey, we're going to be broadcasting. This is on," we'd get the highest amount of viewers, which is insane.
Let me make that switch right now if I can figure out how.
Yeah,
I mean, like, to be fair, I mean, this is the best part of the Star Citizen game. It is the meta game.
Oh, yeah.
It is everything but what can actually be played.
Yeah, I mean, this is really what we're talking about here.
We are all playing Star Citizen right now.
Yeah, because when trying to log into Star Citizen, you just want to go anywhere and do anything else. And talking about Star Citizen is way more fun than playing it.
Twitch is telling me 500-ish viewers, or I'm sorry, 650-ish viewers for Star Citizen. I'm pressing whatever buttons to make that change. I hope it works.
Okay.
Well, we'll see. I mean, you mentioned like early 2013 and stuff like that. Like, we're talking about, they didn't want to play Eve, but they wanted to play a space game. It's sort of like the one thing that was lost in in this big space sim shuffle was Jumpgate 2, Jumpgate Evolution. And I feel like that is like one of the biggest tragedies of like the space sim of the space sim genre, that NetDevil somehow managed to not be able to produce it. I mean, like, they produced that Lego Universe MMO, which absolutely tanked, and I feel like that was their last attempt to actually get some capital to finish Jumpgate 2. But they had demos working on this well before. So like they had an E3 booth, and I think they had a PAX booth. They were showing off the mechanics that they had in place. I mean, sort of like, could have NetDevil also have taken, actually wrote the page that Star Citizen has taken as far as bullshots and not understanding the development timeline?
Oh no! I mean, here's the thing with games and game development is that you're going to heavily prototype a lot in the beginning, a lot of it. And I think the stream is dead.
Sorry, I was trying to switch to Star Citizen. I still trying to figure out how.
Well, anyway, is it back on? Are we still on?
It should be.
Yeah, it's just an advertisement right now.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I'm just watching Snoop. I'm watching Snoop Dogg being everything.
Hell yeah. Oh god, someone remind me what the hell we were just talking about. And I get distracted by shiny keys.
I mean, it's sort of like, I guess we're talking about like a 2013 sort of like back when development started. I guess we're talking about just sort of like perceptions of development.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, I got sidetracked. Yeah, so all your prototyping is going to happen in very rapid stages. So you're going to get a prototype out very quickly. You're going to start seeing gameplay come in, features come in very quickly, usually over the first 3 to 6 months. Mm-hmm. And then from that, you're going to start saying, okay, well, we need this feature. We need feature X, Y, Z. We need to add that in and make sure our core game is still stable. and you're going to prototype off that. So really, the first year is a very rapid pace, and you can have a lot to show to people. You can have a lot to show that looks pretty good, except when they try to play it like you're not expecting. You need players on rails at that point, not doing anything crazy, not jumping over something, not jumping over this, not jumping over that. You need them very linear.
You need them in a box, pretty much.
Yeah, and so this is the problem with space games, is that there's a lot of space. There's a lot of things to do. There's a lot of things that could go wrong, or that you players do that you weren't expecting. You need to have that test time to figure out all that stuff. And if you're continuing to add features, it's going to be a problem. You're always going to be trying to play catch up.
Yeah, and I guess sort of like, we talk about like the early stuff being ready to go, or like the iterations on the early days, like showing up more and more demos, more and more like presentations and whatnot. It makes sense in the Star Citizen way, because Star Citizen, the hangar module and the dogfighter module, those were the big things. And then like the Ilphonic FPS module was supposed to be coming up shortly thereafter, but then something stalled. And then Star Marine came much, much later, and then what we had was just this core of the hangar and the dogfighter.
And why they're doing individual sort of mods to place together into one shared universe. At first, with the Arena Commander, I thought that'd be a good idea for a test bed.
Mm-hmm.
Make every ship available to every backer. Be able, like, that would be the PTU at this point, and say, okay, come on in, do whatever you need to do, have fun with the ships, have unlimited cash, test them to your heart's content, just go crazy, and see what you could break, what is overpowered, what's underpowered, what's the deal with all these ships, because we have like 100 million of them at this point, so we need to figure out how to balance all of these. You have to treat every ship in Star Citizen like you would a class in an MMO. And when you have 100 plus of them, shit's going to be unbalanced everywhere. And they really need to figure that out. But anyway, so I was thinking, okay, that's, Arena Commander, that could be for that. It's great. And then you'll have the PU. And all of a sudden they're like, okay, we'll have Star Marine, which would be a whole separate thing, which would be an FPS to stand on its own legs. It's like, okay, why? As a test bed for first-person combat, you could do that in the PU and have your beginning part of your combined arms game start in the PU. Like, you could have ship boarding, you can have ship to ground combat, you can have all this stuff, where right now that is so far away from being a reality. I mean, you're talking, I hate to break it to some backers, but you're literally talking years before you'll see a cruiser hovering over a planet and bombarding it with your 1,000 other players that you're trying to fight with.
As a cinematic, maybe. As in practice, no.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you and your 12 other buddies who are playing and everything's great and Star Citizen is fantastic. That's great. And if you love Star Citizen, I hope you really enjoy it. I really do. There's parts of it that I could see that could be enjoyable in the future, but you're banking on something, promises made that are never going to come to fruition.
Now,
and for people who have bought... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead and finish up and I'll jump in.
Oh, I'm just saying, for the people who have bought these huge player ships, these capital ships with, 20 to 50 players on them, don't expect that to be anywhere close to reality ever.
Now,
don't expect that in the game.
You have standing in this area. Do you think CryEngine was a fatal mistake, or where was?
I think it was. I think with now that we've seen the terms of what CIG had to do to get CryEngine, to get the demos built for their original Kickstarter pitch, maybe that went through Ortwin and Turbulent as well. I think they had no choice but to use CryEngine, and it was a bad. I mean, look how much work they've had to do just to get it to work with their game. It was the bad choice, but it was the only choice available at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that to a certain extent, but I would probably say the idealist in me the original scope. But let's just say like some features get cut out. Let's just say that boarding, certain FPS abilities, and scope of, let's
Player
just
count?
say like the mod. Well, probably player count, yes, and let's say the modularity, sort of like stuff like the overclocking thing. Oh god, where has overclocking modules gone? Let's just say, let's cut out that stuff. That scope, I believe, could be accomplished in CryEngine over a period of 4 years, probably at I'm gonna say 75 million. I think that can be done. Over the period of 4 years, 75 million, and a competent executive and management staff.
Wait, I mean, yes, if we're talking, let's say, 124 players. Yes, if we're talking less than that. Yes, if we're talking about a very heavily reduced scope. I mean, yeah, you could produce that for less than 100 million.
Yeah.
But that's not what people bought Star Citizen for. They wanted it to be the most ambitious and the most forward-thinking game ever. And right now, what was promised is. The question is, can Chris Roberts deliver on those promises? And I can tell you with 100% fact right now that the 2,500 player instance where everyone's fighting from space and ground and driving ships and planes and tanks and helicopters and spaceships and moon bases and all this shit interacting with one another, no.
Agreed.
Ain't gonna happen.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm 100% willing to be wrong, but they can barely get 20 players in the same ship, in the same area.
If this game comes out and it's like amazing, like if I log in and I could fucking be in a capital ship crewing a missile rack and I'm like shooting at dudes on the ground or like bombing them while I'm like talking to people in like the outer rim about sending information and shit. Like if I'm really playing the game, I'll love it. I'm a backer. I would play it. I'd say, wow, I really was wrong. I'm glad Chris Roberts made this game and that he silenced all doubt and produced it. What I can tell you right now is what I'm looking at, what I'm playing, what I'm seeing is not even close to there. I mean, you're not even talking 5 years from now being there.
Okay, so I might diverge from you in that sort of like, again, like I've said before, Star Citizen needs to die in. I'm also kind of the opinion, based upon what I've heard. So, like, I'd like to get a little bit of feedback from you, Agent, on this. So, the things that I have heard, the thing from my sources of sort of like the stuff that's happened in the background, some very egregious things that have happened in the background to the extent that ethically it's compromised. And I'm kind of the opinion that even if the game comes out, even if it might be awesome, I don't think I'm going to buy it. I mean, just
you posted on Reddit as much. Someone recently put in a refund request, and they didn't like that some of the some of the people outside their group
the heretics,
wanted Star Citizen to fail, or that was their perception. And one of the main pieces of evidence they pointed to was you on a show elsewhere saying Star Citizen needs to die.
Dropping the people's elbow, yep.
Yeah, and I agree with her sentiment, but yeah, it's hard to summarize in one sentence why this project going under would be for the best. Do you want to verbalize that?
I guess sort of like since Asian, you work in the industry far more than I ever. Sort of like the ethical questions, sort of like the transgression, sort of like within the studio itself. Sort of like as an example, sort of like the EA wife thing that came out, sort of like illustrating the problems at the managerial and the employee level problems. Like at a certain point, it's like, is it understandable from an employee or worker or a business owner within the industry to understand and agree with that sentiment that I don't care if you actually launch the game, I shouldn't buy this because of business practice?
I mean, it depends on where you want to stand. There's a lot of people nowadays, for some weird reason, that want to take up the cause. Like they're saying, "Oh, AAA publishers, they're the worst. They'll gouge you. They'll murder you for $1." But Chris Roberts is a god among men. He will take your money and turn it into squatty potty advertisements.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, okay, so what's the difference at this point? What's the difference? So you're saying that EA is a terrible company. They only are after money. They hate their consumers. They just want to gouge them. They don't give a shit. But suddenly CIG, oh my god,
Rules don't apply anymore.
So yeah, suddenly everything doesn't apply anymore, and just so it's like, okay, I get you. You want to support independent game development. You're tired of seeing the same games over and over again. I don't really get that because there's a ton of games out there for almost every single type of person who wants to play a game. Unfortunately, when you say my game will contain everything that every other game has, I mean, does anyone fucking remember that there was going to be a Command and Conquer style RTS built into Star Citizen?
Oh yeah, for the Command CIC for space.
Yeah. You were going to have an RTS, so you're going to have a space sim. You're going to have an RTS, an FPS. You're going to have a trading simulator, exploration simulator. You're going to have every sim type out there, and that would be awesome. It would also be awesome if they all worked. Like, that would be great, and it would also be awesome if they were balanced. How you balance an FPS with an RTS with that level of scalability. I mean, I'm not even talking about how you actually build it. Like, if the tech exists to do it, I'm sure you could manage it somehow if you had enough money. I'm talking about how you're going to balance it, where one ship isn't the de facto ship that everyone's going to use. How come one loadout isn't going to be the same loadout that people use? This has been a problem with MMOs, with everything, with all multiplayer games forever. Someone's going to find the best way of doing it, and then everyone's going to copy it, and you're going to run into fucking problems.
I run the risk of starting a World of Warcraft tangent, but I remember people complaining about, cookie cutter builds in 2000, maybe 2006. Oh
yeah, no. This is
a problem. This is a difficult thing to address.
It's really not, because you can't go. There is shoulders to stand on when it comes to MMOs. There are so many failures, so many successes to look at, that you can say, okay, they tried. I mean, if you play games, if you really play games, if you play a lot of games, a lot of multiplayer games, there's a lot of stuff that you've seen come and go, that when another game tries to do it like a game did 8 years ago, you're like, dude, what the fuck? This does not work. You can skip this. This has already been tried. It is not going to succeed. And I think that a lot of these Star Citizen backers don't really play a lot of games, I feel like. So all this stuff is so new to them. They're thinking, oh, we'll have service beacons that communicate with the relay comm stations, that communicate with the planet. Or I'm like, why don't everyone just jump on Discord and talk? Like, come over. Like, you don't fucking need to do the comm station. Just tell your friend where you're at, like, on Discord. Okay. And I think that's one of those problems, again, when you're designing a game, you have to think of. And right now, they aren't thinking about it. I don't think they're even they're so far away of producing something in that regards with the beacons and the relay stations and all that's actually functional. I don't think they're even bothering with that.
So I guess rounding it back to sort of the point, is sort of like whether or not they actually ship a game, I guess, is irrelevant to me.
Yeah, it is.
So it becomes a sort of a case of, maybe another example probably highlighted, like Doug TenNapel decided to make another game. However, Doug TenNapel is kind of famous for opening his mouth about homosexuality and it being a sin, and that homosexuals should die in a fire. And that's sort of a point of sort of like, well, I loved Neverhood growing up as a kid, but I sure as hell could not back a project with a guy that might be a bigot.
Well, this actually just recently happened. It happened with two projects, really. It happened with Pantheon, which Brad McQuaid's heading up, and his crazy, super fundamentalist Christians that he was using to fund his project early on.
Yeah.
And that's a whole, I mean, you could spend like 10 hours. I could spend 10 hours talking about Brad McQuaid and Pantheon. Holy shit.
Right.
Vanguard and SOE. Anyway, and then also with Kingdom Come Deliverance. That was released and was moderately successful. People were saying it was the greatest release ever. I played through that game after I had a lot of. I started talking shit about it because it looked bad. It looked like a bad game, and so several people from Something Awful said, "Hey man, you can't talk shit about Kingdom Come. You haven't even played it. Is this some sort of like social justice warrior revenge on Kingdom Come Deliverance?" And I'm like, okay, well, I'll play it. Like, I play a lot of games. Let me see how it looks. It looks like crap, but I'll play it. So I played it. It was like a mediocre, like a really kind of bad Skyrim mod for the first half of the game, and the last half of the game was totally bug ridden. And the whole point was that you had to drink. I mean, it didn't matter. Your character became so overpowered about 20 hours in. I mean, you could take on a whole army by yourself, barely clothed. Right. But it was just funny seeing people say the combat's so much better, combat and all this stuff. Well, and then when you actually posted any criticism, I was like, yeah, it's bug filled. Had a lot of problems. I didn't think the combat was very good. It was continuously mediocre, if not bad. And then it would be all, yes, but you are just feeding into the social justice warrior problems. They hate what's his name, Varva, whatever, and they're trying to bring down his company from within. It's like, no, I played the game. The game is bad. I might think the guy's a piece of shit, but I'm not rating the guy. The guy is not my problem. I'm rating his art or game or whatever you want to call it that he put out, and it's kind of a piece of shit. So anyway, I just think that there's people who want to support games, and it doesn't matter if they're bad. They just want to say, oh, well, this is going to stick it to AAA publishers, or it's going to stick it to SWJs or whatever, SJWs or whatever. We're gonna show these people that we can stick together and do this thing. And it's like, I don't care. I don't care if Chris Roberts was snorting coke the entire time he was making this game. I don't care if Sandy was trying to get, A-list actors to act with her. I don't care, as long as the game is good. If the game is good, I'll play it, and all that stuff goes away. If your game is shit, I'm going to call you out on the shittiness of your game and all the stuff that you did behind the scenes that led to the shitty fucking game.
Okay. I mean, I guess it's, for me, it's kind of hard. I mean, being connected to it myself, just being so deep inside of it, I guess for me, I have a problem sort of like having the release of the game, be it good or bad, sort of, obviously sort of like if it's bad, then you can start really ragging on it. But in a sense, sort of like, well, yeah, it's still good, but I guess I have a problem myself. I guess it's specifically for Star Citizen.
I think I understand what Bootcha's saying is like...
A good release should not wash away the sins that have led up to this release.
No, and it shouldn't. But you shouldn't combine. You shouldn't say this game, which is great or bad, is because the people behind it were great or bad. The people behind it could be pieces of shit and still release a good game, and I could base the game on its merits, and then turn around and say, yeah, but look how much they overwork their employees. Look how much they post on Twitter about hating minorities or whatever. I could still do that. I could separate that. And I understand how some people can't, because it's a very polarized. I mean, God, I feel like a politician. A very polarized environment. But I understand some people want to support something because of an idea of it, not what it actually resembles. So like Chris has become this like fabled game designer. I'm not sure where this has come from. I think whenever you give somebody like 25 grand, you gotta believe that they're some amazing person, and not just some guy fumbling through life.
Yeah, I mean, like Chris Roberts managed to duck out for a decade. I mean, like he did not. Well, I mean, freelancer. I guess it's kind of weird because, like, in the early aughts, it was sort of like his game released and was critically acclaimed, but it wasn't his game. Freelancer wasn't his game at the end of it. He managed to skip a absolute brick.
Hmm.
Whereas like John Romero with Daikatana managed to lay a giant brick in everybody's face and say, "Oh, John Romero's not good anymore," and he had to go away.
Well, this is the problem too. Is that a lot of people don't follow the money problems behind these games. So when they hear a Chris Roberts game and they see Freelancer, it's still a Chris Roberts game. Freelancer, and Freelancer was. I mean, I played Freelancer a lot. It wasn't what was promised. But again, when you go over 5 years, I remember seeing the trailers for Freelancer, going, "Wow, this is amazing." And then 5 years, was it 5 or 6? It finally hit. I think it was 1997.
It started in 1997, I believe. That's when they got the contract from Microsoft. It was supposed to release in 2000. It got pushed back to 2001, and then it finally released in 2003.
But Microsoft came in after they were already having troubles.
Yeah, I mean, back in 2000, 2001. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like this compounding thing of, oh my God, like, was it the greatest game ever released? Was it Chris Roberts' magnum opus? No, it was just it was a video game. It's a fucking video game, everybody. Like, this is a video game. If you're putting in $2,500 a year to this game for ships that won't come for probably 24 to 36 months or never, you take a serious look at why you're doing it. Are you putting all this money in because you believe that Chris Roberts will ascend somehow into godhood? Are you really believing that this whole operation will change gaming forever? Because it won't, because this is what publishers and AAA people are already fucking you over with. It's the same marketing bullshit. They try to get your money any way they can, and in this case, it's saying we're different. We are completely different. We will always be different. We'll show you everything about the game and all this other crap, which is a complete lie because they've obfuscated almost everything about the project numerous times. So just ask yourself, why am I giving Chris Roberts a lot of money? Is it because of belief, or is it because I like Star Citizen that I could download and play right now?
That goes back to Bootcha's point of, can I support this game as a finished product or not? Thankfully, we don't have to choose, because it'll never be a finished product. It'll never be anywhere near what they've talked about.
I think it already is. I think Star Citizen has already been released. I think what people are playing is Star Citizen, and to try to crouch it as well, this is pre-alpha, alpha MVP, early access, or whatever. It's bullshit. I mean, what they're doing now is live patching. They're live patching the game on a quarterly basis, like a MMO would do. So
as a slight tangent, I've looked at some of their patches recently. It's like 4 lines of actual changes. Pretty nuts. As far as you think, at this prototype, air quotes, stage, they'd be able to be adding and removing features pretty rapidly, but no, it's
well, some
fixed
people
geometry on X station.
A lot of people are saying, "Oh, the pipelines now are finished," which we've been hearing since about 2014. By the way, all the technology pipelines are finally complete. We can start pumping through all this amazing technology because they're all complete. And I look at this and I go, "Well, this is a great tech demo. You have a couple moons, planets that you could land on. You have rudimentary trading. You have rudimentary combat. You have rudimentary space flight. It's all very, as CIG likes to say themselves, and recently, early days.
Early stages.
Yeah, and so that's great for a prototype. If you told me this game was let's say 5 years in the making, I would have lost my shit. If you said 3 years in the making, I would have lost my shit. If you said 12 months, if you said this is what we have after 12 months, I might say, okay, that seems a little slow, but you're going the right direction. I might put my money into it. And the scope increase that people have been talking about, that backers voted for or whatever, is completely insane. The scope creep of this game has been out of control since everyone put Chris Roberts in charge. I mean, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse until they release something so bare bones, people are going to lose their fucking shit. So anyway,
bare bones and ass covering in this
Well,
oh
that's-
yeah, no, they'll yeah, exactly. They'll say here's Squadron 42. It's like 30 minutes and it's great, and I hope you love it. And also here's Star Citizen's already out. I hope you love that too. A lot more improvements coming. A lot more improvements. Also, the company's shutting down next year. And goodbye.
That's my hope, is that people just don't fade into black. They stay on these guys, and we'll see some epic fireworks at some point.
We talked about the so-called death of Star Citizen, and for me, the death of Star Citizen is not it's not Skodden, although that might be completely accurate. It's not anything else. It's actually when CIG releases any sort of firm mechanics, that's going to be the end, because you're going to have half the people, half the whales, not just half the people, but half the whales. When you lose half your whales that are spending $2,500 to $10,000 a year on you, and you lose them, and they are bitter that you've lost them, and they're never coming back, and they're never going to be replaced. Your cash flow is immediately destroyed, and that's what's going to happen. The mechanics that they build into Star Citizen at some point in the next year are going to make people lose their fucking shit.
And I would agree with that sentiment. I would agree with that fan fiction, and I too would like to give you my own fan fiction of the death of Star Citizen.
Sure. This is a section we're doing called Star Citizen /fiction. How is this gonna end? What's the end game?
So, in my earlier predictions, I have seen that 2019 is going to be the last year of active Star Citizen and Squadron 42 development. And from there, I believe what will happen is that some form of Squadron 42, maybe it's Squalude, maybe it's Episode 1, maybe it's the Morrow Tour just done in 2.0, something bearing the name of Squadron 42 will release, come hell or high water, will be released, because that's the only way to salvage the Coots loan coming up, because they have to do it. However, with the ongoing lawsuit case with Crytek, this will also necessitate the fact that that Squadron 42 was in fact a separate game, and using CryEngine assets, a lot of that profit is actually going to be shifted back to Crytek and not to CIG for ongoing development as part of a settlement. And from there, unfortunately, CIG does not have nearly enough in the bank to complete anything resembling Star Citizen. And at the end, we will see a letter from the chairman. The end. We had hoped this day will never come, but the risk was always there that we could not reach our goals. It is with heavy heart that I must close the doors on development of Squadron 42 Episode 2, and more painfully, Star Citizen, due to financial considerations. I feel blessed to have worked with so many talented and visionary people, and to have been supported by such a passionate community of people from around the world who believed in the same dream I did. Perhaps sometime in the future, circumstances will allow me to fulfill my promise to you, to deliver the best damn space sim ever, quotations, BDSSE. But for now, development must halt, the website shut down, and the dream must sleep once more. But look to the future. We may be beat, but we're not defeated. We'll be back. See you in the verse. Chris Roberts, signing off from a nameless non-extradition country.
I'm not
Wow.
sure how much of that to take seriously, but I take it that you think 2019, some kind of something called Squadron 42 released.
Yes, I mean, like, I say 2019, 2020, maybe. I mean, but it's the same. It's at a point where, like, I don't know how much this boat can float anymore.
Well, we'll count 2020 January as 2019 in this case. But yeah, I think it's hard to see how this can continue any longer, especially with all the turmoil they're going through at the moment.
Well, another thing is that I think you'll never receive a letter from the chairman, and it'll be they'll still take your money for pre-order ships, and forever. I really don't see them. I think even if they say, "Oh, that's Squadron 42, we're still working on it. We had to cut back staff, but it's real close, everybody. It's coming real soon." You might hear that in 2024. And yet they'll be like, okay, the new ship is coming out, and this thing holds 1,800 players. We can do all that. They'll keep selling them. They'll keep selling them until the doors shut, or they might never shut. This thing might just keep going on forever. I mean, honestly, I see people throwing money at this, and I'm constantly racking my brain trying to figure out why.
I wonder if I can still pledge for transverse ships.
Go for it. PGI needs you.
I mean, but wouldn't that be the funniest thing? So, like, everything for CIG shuts down except the store. Like, development shut down, the lights are off, but the store is still open, so he can still give Chris Roberts money.
Open development.
Well, they're taking money for your, what is that? The private server manual.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You can make your mods. You can have private servers. Oh, when that's when the game's released. Yeah, after the game. Way after the game's way after the game's released. So anyway, it's just this whole thing. If anyone is listening to this and actually has ever worked in the games industry or knows anything about it, you can instantly spot a very troubled development process going on, and that is Star Citizen. Not to say the game might still come out and be fantastic. I hope it does, but honestly, at this point, it's looking pretty bad.
Well, we'll have to save the consumer perception for another episode. That's going to be it for this episode 13. We'll see you around. Give me your outros.
This is Bootcha, and I feel sad now.
Yeah, it's bad we ended on a downer.
Wow. This is TheAgent, and I'm going to go hang out with my beautiful girlfriend, and we're going to go drinking and do fireworks and handstands, and there'll be puppies and kittens, and life is good.
I feel happy now.
Hey, Commandos. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. We do have Derek Smart, presumably. We'll try to get a lot more guests and see if we can do an open house style. I think would be good. Thanks so much. Have a good one. This is your virtual captain signing out.